Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Dose at Santa Fe Christian Church. I'm Leanna Doherty, and we are coming together to be close to wrapping up. We may even finish the book of Esther. So if everyone would please go ahead and get your Bibles and turn to Esther chapter 9. That's where we're going to start this morning. So where we are picking up, there has been an evil man named Haman, and Haman had it out for a Jew named Mordecai, and all of the Jews in the reign of King Xerxes, in all 127 provinces where he ruled, all of the Jews were going to be wiped out. And so there was an edict sent to across the entire kingdom of King Xerxes, or it may say in your translation, King Ahasuerus. That's the same guy. Ahasuerus is a Hebrew name and Xerxes is Greek, but he's known as Ahasuerus or King Xerxes. So the edict has gone out to kill, destroy, and annihilate all the Jews. So there was no taking them as servants. There was no shipping them somewhere else and dropping them off. They were all going to be murdered. Old, young, man, woman, all of them were going to be killed. And so that was the edict, and there was a day appointed for this, and we're going to find out that day when we read this chapter. And so the edict has gone out now and has reached all the Jews that on that day they are now able to fight back. Okay, because they didn't have any way of fighting back. It was not like they could defend themselves. They were not able to do that, so they were going to die. But now an edict has gone out that they are now able to fight back, and they are able to fight back on the same day. So let's start there in verse 1 of chapter 9. On the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, the edict commanded by the king was to be carried out. On this day, the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them. But now the tables were turned, and the Jews got the upper hand over those who hated them. The Jews assembled in their cities in all the provinces of King Xerxes to attack those who determined to destroy them. No one could stand against them, because the people of all the other nationalities were afraid of them. And all the nobles of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and the king's administrators helped the Jews because fear of Mordecai had seized them. Mordecai was prominent in the palace. His reputation spread throughout the provinces, and he became more and more powerful. The Jews struck down all their enemies with the sword, killing and destroying them, and they did what they pleased to those who hated them. Verse 6. In the citadel of Susa, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men. They also killed Parshandatha, Dalphon, Aspatha, Poratha, Adalia, Aridatha, Parmashta, Arisai, Aridai, and Viazatha, the 10 sons of Haman, son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. But they did not lay their hands on the plunder. Verse 11, the number of those killed in the citadel of Susa was reported to the king that same day. The king said to Queen Esther, the Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men and the 10 sons of Haman in the citadel of Susa. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? It will also be granted. If it pleases the Lord, Esther answered, give the Jews in Susa permission to carry out this day's edict tomorrow also, and let Haman's 10 sons be impaled on poles. So the king commanded that this be done. An edict was issued in Susa, and they impaled the 10 sons of Haman. In verse 15, The Jews in Susa came together on the 14th day of the month of Adar, and they put to death in Susa 300 men, but they did not lay hands on the plunder. Meanwhile, the remainder of the Jews who were in the king's provinces also assembled to protect themselves and get relief from their enemies. They killed 75,000 of them, but did not lay hands on their plunder. This happened on the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th day they rested and made a day of feasting and joy. Verse 18. The Jews in Susa, however, had assembled on the 13th and 14th, and then on the 15th they rested and made a day of feasting and joy. That is why rural Jews, those living in villages, observe the 14th day of the month of Adar as their day of joy and feasting, a day for giving presents to each other. In verse 20, we have the holiday that is still celebrated today called Purim established. So let's pick up in verse 20. Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent letters to all the Jews throughout the provinces of King Xerxes, near and far, to have them celebrate annually the 14th and 15th days of the month of Adar, as the time when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and as the month when their sorrow was turned to joy and their mourning into a day of celebration. He wrote them to observe the days as days of feasting and joy, and giving presents of food to one another and gifts to the poor. So the Jews agreed to continue the celebration they had begun, doing what Mordecai had written to them. For Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast the pur, that is the lot or dice, for their ruin and destruction. But when the plot came to the king's attention, he issued written orders that the evil scheme Haman had devised against the Jews should come back onto his own head, and that he and his sons should be impaled on poles. Therefore, these days were called Purim, from the word pure. Because of everything written in this letter, and because of what they had seen and what had happened to them, the Jews took it on themselves to establish the custom that they and their descendants and all who joined them should without fail observe these 2 days every year in the way prescribed and at the time appointed. Verse 28. These days should be remembered and observed in every generation, by every family, and in every province, and in every city. And these days of Purim should never fail to be celebrated by the Jews, nor should the memory of these days die out among their descendants. So Queen Esther, daughter of Abihail, along with Mordecai the Jew, wrote the full authority to confirm this second letter concerning Purim. And Mordecai sent letters to all the Jews in 127 provinces of Xerxes' kingdom, words of goodwill and assurance, to establish these days of Purim at their designated times, as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had decreed for them, and as they had established for themselves and their descendants in regard to their times of fasting and lamentation. Esther's decree confirmed these regulations about Purim, and it was written down in the records. Okay, so that is all of chapter 9, and we see now entirely had the flipped the script, as they say, on all of the non-Jews. Now, this is not just Jews versus some other type of people. In the 127 provinces, there were many, many different nationalities, languages spoken, customs and cultures, and those kinds of things. And so when the Jews battled against the people who were going to follow the edict of the king that said to kill them, to annihilate them, and to destroy them, they had to fight a lot of different people. And so we know from chapter 8 that many of the non-Jewish people converted to Judaism because they knew that the one true God, the God of the Jews, was not going to be defeated. So they gave up at that point. Once they knew that so they thought up until then that the Jews weren't going to be able to fight back. But once the king gave them an edict that they could also fight back, then a lot of them, not enough of them, because there were still many people killed, 500 in just one day in just Susa. And so that's just one town and one province out of 127 provinces. And that's why the king asks, if there's that many in Susa, then how many also were killed in all the 127 provinces? And he's asking this with a bit of despair because these are his tax dollars. All these people are how the city functions. But as you can see in verse, who here remembers? Verse 3, all the nobles of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and the king's administrators helped the Jews because fear of Mordecai had seized them. And so the king was able to keep all of his local governments. They were all established, and they all helped the Jews because they're not stupid and they know what's going to happen. But there was still just a lot of hate against the Jews, and the Jews did have to fight for their lives, but they did overcome. We learn in verse 7, 8, 9, it takes 3 verses just to name all of the sons of Haman. So Haman had a lot of descendants, and they would have all still been Agagites, and I've mentioned this several times, but I want to say it again. This Agagite, Haman being a descendant of King Agag, goes back all the way to ancient wars with David. King Agag and David were enemies then, and so these are ancient enemies of the Israelites, and so that is part of the reason. So this is not just a guy who was full of himself and didn't like Haman. This was a battle that stemmed from probably disobedience. I haven't done the Old Testament research, but probably disobedience, because they should have been victorious over Agag back in other verses. But I think I like to go back and study that sometime, hopefully before we do chapter 10. But yes, so the king in verse 12 is still asking the queen, what else can I do for you? What more is it that you are requesting from me? What do we need to do? Like, what's the next move is basically what he's saying here. So the king is deferring not only to now a Jew, but the queen to call the shots and ask what's the next thing that we need to do to make sure that we take care of this problem. And she does not hesitate. So she's gotten some boldness, because in the beginning she was scared for her life to even approach the king. But now she has gotten very bold in the Lord, and she is able to stand up and say, I think we need another day of killings. So that's what she does. She says, if it pleases the king, if it's okay with you, will you please allow us one more day to battle? And he does. And then they are able to overcome. So they have just been celebrating, because the moment that the Jews on all 127 provinces got the edict that they were going to be able to war against their enemies, they started celebrating then, because they know that their faithful God will fight for them. So it says here in that there was some discrepancy about what days should be celebrated, and so they had settled that up. Today, I don't know, it's spelled Purim. I don't exactly know the right way to pronounce it, if it's Purim or Purim or Purim, but it's still celebrated by Orthodox Jews and Jewish culture today. And it is a day of gift giving and feasting and joy. And they do have a pur, which is like a dice. So they're rolling a little, they're casting lots. They're rolling a dice. So yeah, so there you go. That is it. I'm going to defer now to Billy Joe for the closing of our daily dose.
Oh, got a mishap there. All right, everyone. Today's daily reminder: let's fully rely on God each and every day. Let's submit ourselves to God and have faith and trust in Jesus. And we want to seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. And we want to be in the Word daily, but we don't want to just know it. We want to live it, love it, and obey it. And we want to pray always and about everything. Y'all have a blessed day, and we'll see Miss Leanna tomorrow to finish up chapter 10 of Esther. Y'all have a blessed day.